In this video, I'm going to share some things to sew for baby. So if you have baby on the brain, this is the video for you. Enjoy. Just to show you the different ways you can do these, you can do them obviously with one piece of fabric with a cool print on it. That's going to look great. The example we're going to do, I'm going to use a solid piece of fabric. This is another just solid, it'll be super cute. And then this is an example of just taking it a step further. Instead of just cutting the template on a plain piece of fabric, I pieced these 3 pieces together so that it's going to be a little bit more interesting, especially for the 1 to 4 year size, which is bigger. I think that's kind of fun. But it does obviously takes a little bit longer. So it is totally up to you how you want to do that based on the fabrics that you have and how long you want to spend on this project. The first thing you need to do is make your template. So you're going to print the 2 pieces of paper, unless you're doing a newborn. I do have that, so it will print on 1 sheet of paper. But for the 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12, 1 to 4 years, you're going to print 2 pieces of paper. You're then going to measure and make sure that this square is 1 inch. That'll make sure this is all the correct size. Next, you're going to take scissors or a paper cutter, and you're going to trim one of the pages along this line. You're not going to trim both because this is going to allow us to overlap the paper, and it's going to be easier to tape that together. So now I'm going to line everything up. I didn't get right on that line, so I'm just going to make sure this edge, this red line, and these scissors look good. The scissors are really your best guide, and then making sure that those work. Then you're just going to take some Scotch tape or whatever kind of tape and tape down the center. You need to make sure it goes at least to here and here because the rest we're going to cut off. Then you can either cut your template apart now, or you can cut it apart when you're putting it on the fabric. But since I like to, I don't like doing paper with my fabric scissors. I like paper scissors. I am just going to quickly cut this out, and I'm going to cut out the 6-month size. So you do want to print this in color so that you can follow the color when you're cutting. Now I have my 3 to 6 month template, and I've already made these 3 sizes. So I just have all 4 sizes that I can save for future projects. Now what you need is your fabric. So in the PDF where you get the template, I did give you an idea of the size of fabric that you're going to need to make each of these size bibs. So this is, maybe a little bit bigger, and I'm going to fold it in half. And if you're using a directional fabric, you want to make sure you have it where it's facing towards the top. You don't want everything to be upside down on the baby. So now I'm going to pin this on here and cut that out. This time using my fabric scissors, which I mark to say fabric so that anyone that uses them for paper does at their own risk. Once that's cut out, I'm just going to remove the pins. And we're done with our template. So now we have the bib front. Now I like to use kitchen towels for the back of my bibs because they're nice and absorbent. So I'm going to show you how I set that up. This one has some texture to it, so I decided I wanted to go this way, so I'm turning it that way. And then I'm going to put this bib face down. I use the other half for a 1 to 4 year. So you can easily get 2, maybe 3 if you're doing the smaller sizes out of 1 kitchen towel. And I also love doing this because often if you get like a seasonal towel, maybe it'll have something embroidered on it. You can get them on clearance after the season. And since you're not going to use that anyway, it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to pin this right sides together all the way around. And I always sew the fabric onto the towel instead of cutting the towel and cutting the fabric, because it's going to get a lot less lint into your sewing machine and the towel's not going to like stretch out or be an odd shape. So I always just do it the easy way. Pin this onto the towel, and then we're going to take it to the sewing machine. Sew all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam, leaving a few inches along a straight edge for turning. I'm going to sew all the way around the edge with a 1/4 inch seam, leaving a section open so that we can turn this after it's sewn together. Now that it is sewn onto the towel, we're going to take our fabric scissors, cut all the way around, and then we're going to clip the curves so that we can press it and have a nice shape to our baby bib. I usually just do a lot of single clips. You can do a triangle as well, totally up to you. Make sure you do not clip the sewing lines. And then because this area up here, it gets pretty small, after I do the clipping the curves, I like to trim that in a little bit so there's going to be less fabric bulk in there when you turn. And this really does make a bit of a mess with the edge of the towel and the fabric, so you are going to need to clean your cutting mat if you do it over your mat like I am, so you don't get a bunch of lint on your next project that you might put down forgetting that you had towel stuff all over your workspace. Don't trim where it is open, and that is also why we did the opening along a straightaway, so it really doesn't need to be clipped to give you a good shape. Okay, so all of the curves are clipped. Now I'm just going to turn this right side out. I try to turn this as much just using my fingers instead of a turning tool because I don't want it to poke through the towel. So you do need to just kind of get your fingers in there and run them along the curves. And then you can just kind of do that to get your final shape looking good. And then where you turned it, you're just going to make sure that when you press it, you get that folded under, both the towel and the fabric folded under and matched up. When I top stitch my bibs, I like to match my thread to my fabric so that it's not going to show. And then you're also going to need matching bobbin thread for when you sew on your Velcro, unless you're going to choose to use snaps. So for top stitching, I'm going to use the thread that matches the top and a bobbin that matches the towel. So I'm going to go with green and white. The final step is to figure out your clasp. You could do a button, you could do a snap. I like to use Velcro because I just remember wrestling with my child to get these bibs off, going around their head. I like it to be as simple as possible. Just remind whoever's going to use it to make sure they have it hooked together before they put these in the laundry. So I do like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch square. And if you're right-handed, or the mom or dad are right-handed, you're going to want the right side overlapping left. So I put the soft part on the back of the right, and I put the loop on the left. So we can sew the left side on while we still have the green on top, white on the bottom, so that the white is going to match the towel. Now you'll see because I used the white bobbin thread, you can't really see this on the back. So we're going to need to change both of our threads to put this part, the softer part, over here because we want it to be white, so you're not seeing it there. And then we don't want to see it out here because this is going to be the top, so we need the bobbin green, the regular thread white. Then I just cut the ends. And when you hook it together, it looks great. You can't see those stitch marks. That is how easy these bibs are to make. Now I have a set of 4 bibs from newborn to 1 to 4 years. Hi, this is artist Tara Reed back with another sewing tutorial. Today we're going to be sewing for baby. I'm going to show you how to take these very functional, unattractive baby diapers and turn them into cute burp cloths. Super easy, but not quite as easy as I thought it was going to be when I started. So I'm going to teach you the tricks to make this fast and easy, great gift for baby showers, for new baby. Look at how much prettier that is on my shoulder than that, right? And I'm going to be using my new Golf Days fabric. This is perfect for the new baby boy in our family, and it makes a great little gift. So we are going to take a file folder and turn it into a template. And this is obviously too long, I'm going to show you how to make it the perfect size for each specific diaper. Because what I learned was, even though I bought an 18-pack of diapers, they're very inconsistent in length. I mean, some are an inch longer than others. So at first I created a template based on the first diaper that I measured, and I thought, oh, perfect, I can just cut these and iron them and I'm gonna be good to go. And then I came up short. So very frustrating. So I'm gonna teach you the tricks to get this perfect with a long template. It's gonna be fast every time. Then, if you want to make diapers or any kind of baby gift from my golf fabric, I'm also offering this free download on my website, a gift for baby. See what I did there for? So you can go grab that, and I will have a link below the video so you can have that to match the art. So are you ready to get started? I'm going to teach you the tricks. It's going to be super quick, and this is a functional, pretty, and easy baby gift to create. Before you start, make sure you have pre-washed your fabrics and your diapers and iron them all. It's really, really important to pre-wash on a project like this, because if you've ever had a child, you know these things are going to be going through the wash a lot, and you don't want them to be shrinking in different amounts after you have sewn them together and made them pretty. The purpose of cloth diapers is to be functional, obviously. They're thick in the center, thinner on the side. You fold them up, wrap up baby, and it catches all the liquid and some solids that come out of them. That is their goal, but they are perfect for making burp cloths to also catch liquids that may end up on your shoulder when burping baby. One problem is the size is not consistent, and I learned this when making my first template, but let me show you, and so I'm going to save you that. So look at these. They're all lined up on this side, and they're all different lengths, so 3 very different lengths. This one, that's over an inch longer. So if you make one template that is as long as you think it's going to need to be, it's not going to work for all of your diapers. So here is what we are going to do. We are going to take a diaper, and these were all from the same pack of diapers. It was like an 18-pack of, I think, Gerber brand. I like how thick they are. We're going to take one diaper, and then we're going to measure how wide the thick part is, because I want my fabric to cover that. So I'm going to say I want my fabric to be about 5¼ inches wide by however long. Let me show you how to make a template out of a file folder. And you can use a new one or you can use an older one. What I did, and I'm just gonna show you the end product, was I took it this way and I cut 5¼ inches from this edge, 5¼ inches from this edge. So I have a and I love that it folds so perfectly for easy storage. So I have a tri-fold template that is definitely longer than any diaper you're going to get. See, definitely longer. This is the full length of a folder. And then I cut the other one about 3/4 inch or a little over 1/2 inch from that fold. Then I used double stick tape to adhere this together. I didn't want to put tape on the outside because I'm going to be ironing on this as well as using it for cutting. That is going to give you a lot of speed with this project. So I didn't want anything plastic that might melt when I ironed it. So now this is the perfect width for the diaper. I have it folded. I took the template and I cut 1/2 inch to 1 inch over the edge. This, again, makes it fast. Don't really have to measure. You just go from the sides. So now we have a strip that is way longer than we need, but the perfect width. Now we're going to go to the ironing board, and I'm going to show you how to iron it and make it the perfect size for this particular diaper, because as I showed you, every diaper is going to be slightly different length. The first step on the ironing board you can do with or without your template, but it is super easy to get a really straight fold if you put your template down and just turn the end over the paper and just quickly press that. You'll notice often one side of this is straighter than the other. It kind of bows because, again, it's functional. It's not really designed to for us to decorate perfectly. So I always put the straight edge on my left, and then I line up the fabric to be even with that edge and kind of centered over that cushion part. Then I'm going to cut off past the diaper. Do not cut your diaper. And I'm going to do it about 1/2 inch past there. I'm back at the ironing board, and the fabric is centered over the cushy part. This is lined up on this edge, and now I'm going to fold this under so that it lines up with this edge, which isn't totally straight. But I want the fabric to follow the diaper, and then I'm going to iron that down. All right, now we're going to put the diaper aside. We're going to put this face down, and we're going to put our template centered. And now I'm just going to press these edges up over the template. And that's going to give us a really nice strip that is the perfect size to sew onto the diaper. Okay, now you're just going to pin this on here, take it to your sewing machine, and sew all the way around, and it's done. You can whip up. When I sew the fabric onto the diaper, I usually use a thread that matches the fabric for the top and a white for the bobbin, just so it's not obvious where your stitching marks are. A batch of 3 or 6 of these as a gift within less than an hour. So quick and easy. Now, all that's left is to get them ready to give to the mom-to-be or as a new baby gift or to get ready to sell. So I simply turn them over, fold in the flaps that aren't sewn to the fabric, and fold them in half. It's the perfect size to tie up with a bow, add a tag, put into a gift bag, or however you want to do it. And if I'm doing them for baby gifts, I like to do a set of 3 or a set of 6. So I think these 3 look great together. So I'm going to pile them like that. Then I just took a strip of the selvage that was left over, grabbed the free gift tag that you can get on my website, punched a hole in it, threaded the fabric through there. And then I want that to be kind of centered, and then I'm just going to tie it up, and it is going to be the most adorable gift. Now I'll look at how cute that is, and then you can trim these if you'd like to, but super cute and ready to go. Hi, Artist Tara Reed, back with another quick sewing tutorial. This time we're going to be going Western with my Ride the Range fabric from Riley Blake Designs, and we're going to make a super cute and quick toy for baby. This is a crinkle tab toy. Hear that? Awesome, isn't it? You want to know what it is? It is the bag from cereal, because you want to use food grade plastic in this thing. More about that when I get to the details of how to put this together. But basically, it's 2 6x6 pieces of fabric. One I did a patchwork, one I just did plain, a bunch of ribbons, the plastic on the inside, and this will keep babies entertained for hours. But don't forget about safety. Do not put them to bed with this. There's plastic in it, so just be careful. This would be something that I would use when I'm sitting staring at their adorableness, or definitely like have the baby near you. So just think safety, use your judgment, and now let's get to the fun part and see how easy these are to make. Let's quickly talk about the materials you need to make a crinkle tag toy for a child. And I got it set up a little bit so that you don't have to watch me pin a bunch of ribbons. So basically, I am going to be using a 6x6, well, 6.5 inch now. So it's going to end up being a 6x6 tag toy. I'm just going to do plain on the back, and this is one of the prints from my Ride the Range fabric collection from Riley Blake Designs. And then on the front, I decided to make a 4 patch. So, and I did fussy cut. I'll show you more when that's sewn. You'll be able to see a little bit better, but I basically took my little Cute Cuts ruler. This is a Lori Holt of Be in My Bonnet from Riley Blake also. That is 3.5 inches, so it's perfect size. And I put it over top of the fabric. So if I were to fussy cut this, if you're not familiar with the term, I would take it over the fabric and I'd be like, okay, I want the cowboy hat right in the middle. And so I would position the ruler and then cut around it. Or if I wanted the boots, I would do the same. So that's what fussy cut means if you're new to that term. There's always a day when we don't know a term, right? So I'm doing a simple 4-patch on the front and just the toss on the back. And then I got 4 different kinds of ribbon, and they're different textures. So these 2 are the same. They're a grosgrain. This one's satin, so it's going to feel a little bit different. And then this one is going to feel different as well, because the goal of this is noise and texture. Infants love both. I cut the ribbons, the pieces of ribbon, to 3 inches each and just put them around. And you can just decide how many you want. I'm going for a lot. So I pinned them or clipped them all the way around one side. And then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to baste that. Now, here comes the fun part. I had seen this on some other posts about doing these crinkle things for the noise. And someone said, oh, you need to use food safe plastic. And I was like, what on earth is food safe plastic? Like a Ziploc bag that doesn't make a ton of noise. And then someone said, grab your cereal and use the bag, because if cereal's in the bag, it's food safe. So this is plastic from a box of cereal that I have washed. You want to wash and dry it. And listen to that. My husband said he wants one. I did a little test just to make sure, because I was like, oh, that's such an amazing idea. And then I thought, well, how's it going to hold up? Because, you know, babies, they slobber, they chew on things. You're going to want to wash this. Can we wash it? So I made a little sample of fabric with the plastic. I put it in the washer. I put it in the dryer for about 15 minutes. I wasn't sure how long to do that. And this plastic held up no problem. Then I also thought, well, what if it's wrinkled and somebody wants it to be flatter? Can I iron it? I used my iron on a silk setting. You wouldn't want to do like cotton and heat and do too much heat, but on a silk or polyester, totally fine. Didn't shrink, didn't buckle, nothing. So I feel like that means we are good to go to use this, to use a cereal thing. So I'm super excited to get this sewn together. First step, I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to baste all of these ribbons on at about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. As I go around, I need to make sure the ribbon stays down. So I'm going to use a super cute turning tool. It's a little Riley Blake bird, just to keep my fingers away from the needle and to keep myself out of the emergency room. Now that we have all these ribbons basted in place, we're going to make sure they are staying to the inside. I'm going to take the backing and put it face down so that we have right sides together, making a sandwich. And then we are going to take the cereal bag that I cut to size and put that right on top. Now it gets a little bit lumpy because you have so many ribbons under there, but the goal is to line up the outer edges and mash those ribbons. So then I'm just going to clip this all the way around, and then we're going to sew around with a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more, just to make sure I didn't go in too far on the basting, and leaving a section open to turn. Now I'm going to clip the corners. You can hear that delicious crinkle while I work. And now I'm going to turn it right side out. Now we're going to enlist the bird for what he was meant to do, help with your corners. Okay. So normally I would say, oh, go to your ironing board and press this under. But because it's plastic, I really don't want to press it. We can on a very low setting, but it folds pretty easily because I didn't leave it too big, and we can just make sure the ribbons are poking down. I'm going to use a couple pins. It's a little harder to clip. And you have all of these ribbons. And then the final step is just to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. That'll close your opening and just give this a little bit more of a finished look. And now that it's turns, you can see how I made it very specific images in these two corners. I think it looks so cute with the horse and the cowboy or cowgirl and the barbed wire. Love how this is coming out. And that's it. Lots. I really went all out on the tags, didn't I? Lots of things for babies to hold on to, and that delicious crinkle. That's how easy it is. So simple. If you've been on the hunt for a crib sheet for your nursery or for a gift, and you just can't find anything that you love, I'm going to teach you how to make one. This is going to be a crib sheet with elastic all the way around, so it's going to fit nice and snugly on the mattress. I'm going to show you how to do a standard crib sheet, a mini crib sheet, or a bassinet crib sheet, and also how to figure out how to get it to fit any mattress or playpen pad that you have. So first, I want to do a little disclaimer. This is a product for a baby and where they sleep. So I'm just going to teach you how to sew it. It is up to you to decide what materials you are comfortable with, whatever laws you need to follow if you're going to try and sew and sell these. I'm just giving you the instructions. You get to decide on all the materials. And then number two, I'm going to remind you, please pre-wash this fabric. I will admit sometimes I'm lazy and I don't pre-wash my fabric for a project, but for something like this that is going to be going through the laundry a lot, you absolutely want to pre-shrink your fabric, because if you sew it together and then it shrinks even a little bit, it might not fit the mattress very well, and that would be a bit of effort for one use. So now that we got the disclaimer and the pre-washing out of the way, let's get started. In this demo, I'm going to be making a mini crib sheet because that works the best with a traditional cotton quilted fabric. And this is from my Golf Days collection. It's going to be so cute on my nephew's crib. If you want to make a standard size crib sheet, you are going to need to start with a little bit wider fabric. It has to be 44 to 44 and a half inches wide after you have pre-washed your fabric. This fabric ended up being 42 inches wide, so it wasn't quite wide enough to do a standard crib sheet, but it works for a mini, which you can also use for travel crib sheets, pack and plays, things like that. So what I have done is pre-washed, as I mentioned, ironed it, and then I folded it in half and then in half again. The goal is to get all four open corners together. You want to make sure before you do any cutting that you have triple checked that these corners have no folds, because if you mistakenly grab this corner and cut where it's folded, you'll be using this fabric for something else and not a crib sheet, because you will have cut a hole out of the center of the sheet. So this is cut to size 48 and a half inches by 35 and a half inches. And then I'm going to cut a square out of the corner that is 5 3/4 inches square. I usually don't use it upside down, but I want to because I just want to make sure it's showing me 5 3/4, 5 3/4. Now I'm just going to use a heat resistant pen. So this will disappear once it is heated with an iron, but we are going to cut it. So it's probably not going to stay on there. Okay, so this is what we're going to cut out. You can either use a rotary cutter or scissors, and I like to use a combination. I don't like to use a rotary cutter all the way to this corner because if I go over, it's going to mess up my crib sheet, which would be a big bummer. So I'm going to use the rotary cutter to about here and then snip the end with scissors. If you have to turn it, just make sure it stays lined up properly in these corners. Now we can set that aside and use it for a different project. It would be perfect for a little quilt square. You can make a little receiving blanket that matches the crib sheet. Wouldn't that just be so cute? If you watch many of my videos, and I hope that you do, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of fabric clips. But for this project, I prefer pins because we're going to be doing 4 corners on a pretty big piece of fabric, and I want to make sure nothing slips. So what we're going to do next, we're going to pin each corner together. So basically, you're going to lay this as flat as you can on your space, and then you're going to fold up the cutout corner right sides together, and you're just going to pin. And we're going to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, all 4 corners are pinned, and we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew these corners. Now we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam I'm just going to go straight, and then I'm going to come back and zigzag to prevent this from fraying. So you can either use the guides on your sewing machine, or one thing that my niece and I like to do when she is learning to sew is sometimes I will take a piece of washi tape and I will put it down. And I use washi tape because it's removable and it's not going to leave residue on your sewing machine. So I will put it down so I have a much longer guide to watch with my fabric. And then I always just double check with a gauge ruler. I set it at 1/4 inch and I make sure the distance between my needle and my tape is going to be 1/4 inch. And now that I have that straight line sewn, I'm going to switch to a zigzag. And if your machine does this, I chose a right zigzag so that the needle is going to be on the far side of, this is the right side of the stitching. So I can just have my fabric go where that stitching is going to be. And then I'm just adjusting how long and how wide it is going to be. I don't want the zigzag to go over this stitch. I want it on this side, just so it's protecting it from fraying. All right, so you can see we have our 1/4 inch seam, which is going to be nice and straight. And then the zigzag that gives a really nice seam. So then when we turn it around, this is what the front is going to look like. That's going to go over the edge of the crib. So it's going to look super professional. Another option, instead of doing a straight stitch and a zigzag, is to use an overlock stitch. And that basically means it's going to do both of them at the same time. It's going to do a straight line down the left and zigzag to prevent your fabric from fraying. So on the Janome sewing machine, they have a specific foot for that. It has this little metal thing here that's going to guide. So I'm just going to feed it and guide the fabric along here. And then this little number is going to do all the rest of the work for me. So let's get that done. So you can see it did the line and the overlock for me. So that is an overlock versus a straight stitch plus a zigzag. So there's the difference. They're both 1/4 inch. They both serve the same purpose. It just depends on which you prefer and whether your machine will do an overlock versus a straight and a zigzag. Now that we have our 4 corners, look how perfect they look. We are going to do a bit of ironing to make the casing for the elastic. So what you're going to do is you're going to iron 1/4 inch and then a 1/2 inch all the way around. And I find it helpful to use a gauge, a little measure gauge. This is put at the 1/4 inch. So as I'm ironing, I can just double check that I'm staying pretty consistent with a 1/4 inch. Now for a standard size crib sheet, if you are using a wider fabric and can cut to 68.5 by 44.5 inches, you will be able to do this 1/4 inch before the 1/2 inch. So all the raw edges will be sealed inside. Otherwise, if you can only go to 68 by 44, you're going to zigzag all the way around and then simply fold it up like that. But I do like the concealed raw edges where I can. Now it's pressed at 1/4 inch over all the way around. So I'm going to adjust my gauge to 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to press 1/2 inch. Well, I didn't eyeball it well. That's why I use this. It is your best friend. Now that we have that pressed, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, we are going to sew close to this edge to make the casing for our elastic, leaving 1 inch to 1.5 inches open so that you can insert your elastic. All right, we're to our last step. We have to add the elastic into this channel that we just created. If you were sewing masks like a maniac in 2020 and have any elastic left over, it's probably perfect. This is a 1/4 inch flat braided elastic, and you can see it stretches, bounces back quite nicely. So every elastic is a little bit different. You want one that's got a good bounce back so that this is going to fit well onto a mattress. So I have cut this piece to 54 inches long, and I'm going to put a quilting safety pin in it. And I'm going to go through it twice instead of just once, so it's not as much pull on the end of the elastic. And then, oh my gosh, this just always reminds me of my grandmother. She taught me how to do this years and years and years ago. You're just going to slide it through. This is a great activity to do while you are watching TV because we got a bit of a length to go. Now, the one thing to remember is the length of the elastic is a little bit less than half the length of the channel. So you want to make sure you don't get so meditative doing this that you just keep pulling it all the way through. This end needs to stay out. So what you could do if you're nervous about forgetting that is just kind of fold that over. And here come my favorite clips. I'm just going to clip that. As you get further along, it gets pretty bunched up. So you can just kind of pull along there and get more of that elastic into the channel. Uh-oh, Houston, we hit a snag. I went too far from the edge and now my safety pin won't go through. So I'm going to have to use my handy dandy seam ripper, take a couple stitches out because I do not want to start over. All right, let's see if that is enough to get moving again. All right, yay. But I do need to make sure I remember to sew that part shut again. So I am going to put a clip on the fabric just to remind me. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to sew these two pieces together. And I want to make sure it stays flat. So I'm going to pay attention to how it's coming out of each side and make sure that this is not twisted when I clip these together. I'm overlapping the elastic about 1 inch and I'm going to sew it together with a zigzag stitch. So I've left the clip on the far end so that it's a little bit easier to keep them lined up. You obviously do not want your fingers near this when you're stitching. I'm going to carefully get that under there. Okay, so as long as you get it lined up well in the beginning, you should be good to go. I also am going to keep my scissors here because it's a great way to just press down and make sure everything is guiding through. So I'm going to let go of this clip now and I'm going to use my scissors. So here we go. It is together. Now we have to pull this elastic so that it all goes inside. We don't want this big loop hanging out. So you're just going to just keep pulling to move the elastic kind of evenly around your crib sheet. And then I need to find that section that I had to open for turning. There it is. And so I need to get that flat, go back to a straight stitch. I'm going to have to hold that open so that it doesn't do that, so that I can sew along there. So now we are continuing to just try and move this elastic around so that it gets all pulled in and we can close the original hole where we threaded it. Okay, it's not sticking out anymore. We can now sew that shut. And now it's all done except for the evening out of the fabric on the elastic, which you are just going to work with your hands like this. And then you're going to be ready to go. What a fun project for your baby, for a grandbaby, for a baby shower gift, new baby gift. I can't wait to see this somewhere with my cute little great nephew on it.